He probably knows Claire's presentation. Oh, there it is. Okay, go ahead, Claire. Welcome back.
Thank you. I was just saying you can't get rid of me. I keep coming back. Hopefully you can see my screen. I was invited to give you a brief introduction to the Fully Alive resource. And so I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview. I'm going to use pieces from the video that Calgary Catholic put together for their district, and then they shared with the rest of the province. So I'll be using some pieces from that, and then at the end we'll have some time for questions if you have any. So Fully Alive is a family life education resource. It was originally developed in Ontario through a collaboration between the Catholic Bishops of Ontario and Ontario's Catholic educators. And resources were developed for grades 1 to 8. In 2020, the resource was adapted by the Alberta Bishops and is guided for use in Alberta Catholic schools by a resource document that has been endorsed by the Alberta Bishops, the ACSTA, and the CCSSA. Really, the purpose and the goal of this resource was to develop a resource that would support and strengthen the family, which of course we know the Vatican has said is the first vital cell of society. The family is crucial to our society, and so the more we can support our families and support our students as they come through our schools and learning about family life, the better we will be supporting that vital cell. So through the resource and the teachings within the resource, it encourages children and their families to reflect on and be guided by the wisdom drawn from Christian human experience. Certainly there are times when needed that Catholic doctrine and morals are explicitly presented. And really what the purpose is teaching children about the revealed will of God and how God reveals himself to us in our humanity and through our experiences. So really it's about inviting our students to be more receptive to God's will and understanding how God works in and through their lives. So it's really, it encourages the children that we teach to reflect on the fact that they are deeply loved, to open themselves to others, and to value their lives as unique creations of God, that they are created by God and to be loved. It's really grounded in love. So this is, the picture here is the first page in the grade 1 student textbook. And it starts with that statement right away: we are God's children and we are fully alive. So I'm going to start briefly with a quick little clip of Bishop McGrattan, who just speaks to the resource and the importance of the resource.
This new Catholic resource, Fully Alive, is a resource that conforms to our Catholic teaching. It allows us to understand that we have been made in the image and likeness of God. It talks about the meaning and the purpose of marriage, and also the gift of our human sexuality. And so the Alberta Bishops endorse and support this new resource that's being introduced into our Catholic schools across Alberta in the coming years. It's a resource that both parents and teachers can understand and appreciate the richness of the Church's teaching in this whole area. It allows for the students to mature and develop, to understand their physical maturation, as well as their emotional and spiritual. It provides, I think, in the hands of teachers, a rich resource, a resource that will assist them in their vocation as teachers. You know, Pope Francis has talked about the fact that we are called to be missionary disciples, and a missionary is one who announces the good news. And so as teachers and disciples, I really encourage you to embrace this new resource, to understand that it does bring to our students the good news, that all of us have been created in the image of God, that all of us are children of God. And so in the coming years, as you work with this new resource, I hope that you will see the fruits of how children respond, knowing that they are truly, in God's eyes, children that He has made in His image and His likeness. And so let us fully embrace this new resource and let us work with it together so that we might benefit not only our students, but also their parents in the permeation of what is important, our Catholic faith in our Catholic schools.
So within the resource, as I said, we have a resource for grades 1 to 8. Currently, Pearson is digitizing those resources, and so we have access right now to the digital resources for grade 1 and 2. Grades 3 to 8 are being updated and digitized over the next few years, and so yeah, we're working with grade 1 and 2 right now, but each of the grades as we go up have 5 themes, and the themes stay the same. And so I'm going to show you a video clip where, again, these are 2 educators from Calgary Catholic. They're going to take you through a quick overview of each of the themes. So the first 3 themes we'll look at are created and loved by God, living in relationship, and then created sexual, male and female. And I'm not sure if they mention it, but it is recommended that we teach the themes in order. So we're always grounded in the fact that every human person is created and loved by God.
Over time, Fully Alive will be rolled out grades 1 through 8. The themes remain the same at each grade. Concepts are explored at an age-appropriate level. Created in the image and likeness of God is foundational to all themes in Fully Alive. We are a part of God's gift of creation. God created us like Himself. We are made male and female and are meant to love and to be loved. First in our families, and then in our wider communities. As human beings created by God, we are images of Him as revealed to us through Jesus Christ. God made and loves each one of us, though we are each unique and different in our own ways. It is good to be who we are, which includes self-acceptance of our feelings, opinions, talents, strengths, and weaknesses. The first place we learn about and accept God's love is through our parents and families. Fully Alive is designed to complement the efforts of parents in order to help a child flourish.
The relationships of family and friendship are the core of Theme 2. Living in relationship is intended to be both hopeful and challenging. Hopeful because learning to love is a lifelong process, and there is always the opportunity for a new beginning. Challenging because the students are urged to recognize the importance of their own contribution to the quality of their family life and friendships. Pope John Paul II said that the special vocation of each human person is to love. We love in God's image, the Trinity. Family life is a mixture of joy, satisfaction, sacrifice, happiness, hard work, worry, and disappointment. Some families have experienced the serious disruption of separation, divorce, illness, poverty, and unemployment. These families need the support of the whole Christian community. Whatever the circumstances, it remains the role of the family to teach its children to be fully human. Every family needs God in its daily life to fulfill this great responsibility. And we, as Catholic educators, come alongside our families to help in this endeavor.
This theme builds upon themes 1 and 2 and continues to explore what it means to be human. Created out of love, our true meaning is found in love, in living our lives in relationship with others. Human love encompasses the body in its maleness and femaleness. Ideally, it is on this foundation of the fruitful love of wife and husband, which is an image of the love of God, that children's early understanding of the meaning of sexuality is developed. In the early grades of Fully Alive, the focus of Theme 3 is on the life-giving or procreational dimension of sexuality, life before birth, and the needs of new babies. This is done through the context of stories, which focus on marriage and family, new life as a gift from God, the need to care for new life, and the body as part of the gift of the person. Some topics explored in the later grades include development during puberty, the relational dimension of sexuality, fertility, chastity, and an understanding that sexuality, of course, is not just about bodies and how babies are born. It is mainly about people who are male and female. Who we are and what we do communicates to children what it means to be a man or a woman.
So the last two themes that we'll look at, are
Over time, Fully Alive will be rolled out.
4 and 5, and those themes are growing in commitment and living in the world.
This theme continues to explore what it means to be fully human. To be human is to be faithful to God and to others, and to use the gift of freedom wisely. This theme is concerned with the truth of our lives as persons. Our choices, decisions, and promises reflect and create the persons we are. In the early grades, this theme is explored by looking at the meaning of a promise and what it means to make choices. In the later grades, this theme is continued with topics such as how to make and keep commitments, free will, and personal responsibility. The example of love and commitment that a child experiences at home and school has a strong impact on their lives.
This theme continues to explore what it means to be human. To be human is to live in the world, both as a member of society and to live in relationship with all creation. The primary goal of Theme 5 is to increase awareness of the goodness of creation, of the value of human work, and of the responsibility we all share to do our best to make the world a good home for all. In early grades, we focus on the world as our home, how we have a responsibility to care for our home, and the interdependence of human work. In later grades, we focus on qualities of good community, the concept of social environment, social justice issues such as poverty, the environment, and abortion. We need to nourish the enthusiasm of students and communicate our belief that individuals can make a difference and can participate wholeheartedly in the human society to which they belong.
So those are the 5 themes. Before, if you have any questions, I know we're running out of time. So I just wanted to show you some images that come from the student text I chose some from grade 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 because those are the student books we have the best access to right now. But you can see the focus is on marriage, family, different types of family. So I think most students would be able to see their family in many of these images. There's a good blend in the resource between drawn images and pictures. So it's a nice balance. Certainly in grade 1 and 2, it's more visual than text. As we move into grade 4, there's a bit of a shift and it becomes more text-based. But again, a good blend between art and photos. So this is an example from grade 4, so you can see a little bit more text than there would be in grade 1 and grade 2. Okay, but any questions? Oops. Any questions before I leave you?
Any questions or comments from anyone? Go ahead, Trustee Tuckwood.
Claire, I am from Ontario.
Okay.
So when mentioned in January that you're going to be talking about this, I talked to my cousin who's a teacher in Ontario and has taught this. And she said there were some really good things in it, but she also felt there was some drawbacks. Felt it didn't address the LGBTQ2 community at all. Like a one page, I think she said, on homosexuality. So she felt that that was a drawback. Also, she's a strong part of the Native community there, and she felt that you can't be it if you don't see it. It was depicting my family exactly, but it wasn't depicting the family she had in her classroom.
Right.
So those are my two things that I didn't care for, but there was a lot that I did care for.
Right.
But
yeah,
well, things I had concerns with.
Yeah, I think certainly in terms of the images, there are, I would say, quite a few images throughout the program, particularly in the student textbooks. I think they did make an effort to try to show a variety of different families and a variety of different people, a variety of different cultures. And so certainly, I think that is actually a strength of the program. Now, with the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, certainly that's something we've grown in our understanding of, particularly in the last few years. And so if that's something that teachers feel is lacking, we can absolutely provide some images or support to them in the way that we have in every other curriculum that will allow them to weave some of that knowledge into this resource as well. For the LGBTQ plus community, it's certainly, especially because this resource deals with sexuality and addresses sexuality from a Catholic point of view. I think it really encourages teachers to be mindful of different communities and different students in their class. One of the things that the resource group here in Alberta has done is they've actually put together a document for teachers, specifically for Fully Alive, where it outlines all of the areas where you could where you're just called to be more mindful and more pastoral towards those students who maybe come from a different family structure, or they themselves are questioning their own sexuality. And it gives you some suggestions for how to be pastoral and conversations that you might want to have with parents and with students, again, at a developmental and age appropriate level. And so I think that's one of the resources that's been developed, certainly, to support our teachers. And then, of course, as teachers start to work through the resource, we will be supporting them as well and providing more, more support and more resources to them to help them in that area.
Charlie?
Thank you. And just further to what Claire's mentioned, I think it's important for trustees to understand this is a resource. It's not the only resource. And, it's not the curriculum. So, as Claire said, we know those kind of questions will come up when students ask them. and we don't shy away from them. But this is a resource to support our faith and to the curriculum. But there may be outcomes in the curriculum that are not in this resource. We have to find other resources in those situations. So it's important that we don't say that this has to match 100% with the curriculum, and it won't tackle every issue.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Afon?
At my last report last month, I did mention that we should be aware this is a resource and not a curriculum, right? Because that was clearly stated, and I brought that back from ACST. So we should be mindful of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Afon. Yeah, I appreciate that there is, you did have talking notes or to go with the resource, and always at a pastoral approach. So definitely appreciate that. Okay, any other comments or questions from anyone? Trustee Sirwa?
Sure. Some parents expressed to me that they were not pleased with some of the content. And I know a few of the parents did phone the teachers and were told that if they don't have to attend if they don't want to.
Yeah, similar, because especially in theme 3 of this resource, there's human sexuality outcomes. And so similar to our human sexuality outcomes in health, parents are, as we know, the primary educators. And so they do have the right to ask that their child be excused from those lessons. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Claire. That was excellent. Definitely informative. Oh, I was looking, where did you go? You bounced around there. Okay, thank you very much. That was very informative and appreciated.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, 7.14, this is just for information purposes. The Grace Summit is April 19th. Our next board meeting is when? Does somebody have a calendar handy?
21st, I believe. It's April 21st.
April 21st. So, so yes, this the Grace Summit is before our next board meeting, and I don't think I'm not positive about the registration yet. But are there trustees interested in going? And it most likely is virtual, which makes it very convenient. It's being hosted by Elk Island Catholic. So the 19th is a Monday. Yeah. Is there anybody that is interested in going or can attend? Trustee Tugwood?
Unfortunately, I have an Edwin Parr meeting that day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's see what it is.
Probably
I could.
Yeah, I plan to attend. So. But it really is a great day. And I'm trying to remember who went last year. I think it was Trustee Bannard who went last year. So it's one of those, it's one of our Catholic family events, our provincial Catholic family events that it's just really, really nice to attend and hear what everyone's doing about celebrating Catholic education and how to go forward. Okay. So we are at 7.15, and Charlie was going to give us an update on the events that happened at Christ the King on Monday. So anyhow, I also just want to, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, but I just really have to acknowledge our Charlie and all the staff and the students who had Lori. I think, Lori, you're a big part of everything that happened on Monday, and I'm sure everybody was. Caitlin, like all the commotion and the the trauma that happened on Monday and how devastating that day was and how hard it was to get through. I mean, for myself, I was getting the updates and I was in, just very, very distressed about it all, of course, as everybody was. But anyhow, just a huge appreciation to Charlie and Lori and staff and Leduc Victim Services and the RCMP and how everything, happened and was managed, and just a very tragic situation. So there was a lot of response that had to happen on Monday and ongoing response, all week. Just there's lots of needs from staff and students. And, it's very hard. I don't think anyone's really resting well yet, through the whole thing. So anyhow, I'll pass it on to Charlie. And again, just thank you for, just such leadership through this difficult situation. So.
We're going in camera, right?
We didn't plan to go on camera unless we need to. Charlie?
Do we have to? I was thinking, I thought that's what.
If there's details that are going to be shared that are not public yet, then we can go on camera. But otherwise, Charlie, I'll leave it up to your recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where we're at with everything. So
I think we're fine in the public meeting. Trustees will need to understand that I won't be sharing details that may be before the courts. If you want more detailed information, we would have to be in camera. So yeah, let me just kind of, again, I may be scattered. It's just a lot of things that are going on. So I'm not sure. I'll try to kind of be, I'll try to flow from the beginning to where we are now as best I can. So basically, when we heard, Ed and I were in a meeting with Alberta Ed when we got the call from Principal Dunlop. So what that kind of instigated was the standing up of our Emergency Operations Center. So there are 7 of us at central office that are on the emergency operations team. So as you've mentioned some of the players before, I'll just kind of give you an overview of that so you kind of understand how the logistics worked of that. So when we gather that team, Sean McGinnis, Assistant Superintendent Sean McGinnis, is the commander-in-chief, so to speak. He runs the team. And there's a reason why he does that. It's to free me up, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But he kind of runs the team. Now, Lori, in this case, she looks after operations. So Lori was back and forth with Dennis every 15 minutes throughout this process, Principal Dunlop. Caitlin is the communications point. Ed is the liaison with all the agencies. So he was the one talking to RCMP, other divisions and so on, Child and Family Services, all the different agencies in that kind of that are necessary in this process. I am kind of the communications voice for the division. So I coordinate all communications, or I speak to the media. And it's my job to update the board chair. So throughout this process, and I told Michelle early on at the first call that I'll be providing you with updates, and then you'll in turn update the rest of the trustees. That's kind of the model. Now, parents, when we sent parents a first notice that we were in a real lockdown and it wasn't a drill, we provided the information that was known to us. And it always ended with an update will be coming in 20 minutes. So that was part of why every 15 minutes, the principal and Lori were having updates. Lori would bring those updates to the team, and then we'd say, okay, what's next? So further messages would go to families, to other schools, to other agencies, and so on. And then I was in touch with others, like other superintendents and media and so on. So, and with the board chair. It's also my job to liaise and communicate with Alberta Education. So I was talking to our field services manager, the deputy minister, and answering questions that the minister had through the field services manager. So that's kind of how the team is structured. I will say that we set that team up about 5 or 6 years ago. And sorry, I did miss somebody, and that's Kim. And my apologies. Kim is there as the scribe. So she takes notes the whole way through on everything that's happening and being said, every decision that's made, so that we can reference that back. So when we had this training 5 years ago, that's when we assigned roles to everybody. I was so thankful that we had that structure in place. It really paid off. Now, of course, until you actually go through the incident as we did on Monday, you're not ready for it. So you can do training, you can do mock exercises. It's not the same. So the team, basically, we gathered at 10:25 on the Monday. We stayed together basically as a group until 3:45 on Monday. So it was pretty much a 5-hour, 6-hour, somewhere between that steady meeting. And we did take breaks here and there, but it was basically back and forth. Part of that, again, is to provide traumatic counseling and support. So again, that's Lori operationalized that through Chris Pirro and her directors. So all of that, came from that team and those decisions that the team made along the way. You can imagine the phone was ringing off the hook at the school and here at central office. So part of my job, again, is to provide Lucy at the front with updates so that she can convey those same kind of messages to parents who are phoning and media. Media, for the most part, were pretty good. They kind of know that, Caitlin's our person. Once in a while, one would ask to speak to me, but we were dealing with those situations, constantly. The media requests are still always ongoing. And that's just been part of that. Sorry, Alberta Health is phoning. Probably about a COVID case, but they can call back. So that kind of took us through the initial response to that. Tuesday morning, the decision was made to cancel classes Monday, and we communicated with families to that effect. We had supports on site yesterday. They started Monday, they went yesterday. They're still there through to the end of the week. So we have the division psychologist. We have school counselors. We have family school liaison workers who are social workers. We had victim services from Leduc, including their service dog. We had the parish priest, Father Silvichin. So all in all, I believe we had 35 people available as supports. So that was kind of the trauma response unit that was put in place. So Tuesday morning, as you're aware, Michelle and Henry, board chair and vice chair joined myself, Lori, and the staff at the school to start the day with a bit of a meeting, kind of to talk about logistics and to start in prayer. So that's kind of how we started the day yesterday. We did some check-ins with the school throughout the day and with our support team. We provided meals to the staff, and that is ongoing throughout the day. And that's kind of was yesterday. Now, the uptake on those services was we had a number of students. Surprisingly, a lot of staff accessed those services. So it was good that students were all in the school. It gave staff a chance to have access to those supports. Today, so the decision was made today to bring students back. And part of that rationale was to kind of provide some calm and normalcy to them. They also can best access supports if they're actually in the building and don't have to get to the school. And, until you're actually back in the school, sometimes you don't realize that you need support. So today there was more of an uptake on accessing those supports by students, some staff as well. what we're finding is that students and staff are kind of in various stages of grief, and how they're dealing with that, absolutely. There's been media interviews. I've done media interviews with Grandin Media, CBC, Global, and CTV. Those are kind of been the formal media interviews. And then there's also, Caitlin has been back and forth with media answering questions throughout this process. Lots of questions. It's got to be hundreds. We've followed kind of a lot of our procedures throughout this. So the emergency response team, I know, you know, as trustees, you're kind of removed from that in one sense, but that's, most of it is administrative and bringing that to kind of life and to work. I am the official spokesperson for the division. That is something that was put in place, like I say, 5 or 6 years ago, between superintendent at the time, Troy Davies, and board chair at the time, Talia Hibbs. There is an opportunity for the board chair to be the official spokesperson of the division. That is another model, but that's not the one that we operated under with what we had. We have, according to our procedure, we've sent the family flowers. They're, in this case, the parents are not together. So each family has received, you know, according to our protocols, $100 of flowers, expressions of sympathy. Those cards are written on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the division. So those have gone out on your behalf, as well as a mass intention. The father of Jennifer, the victim, is registered at St. Michael's, and so that was the mass intention is happening there. The ATA local, not only ours, but Black Gold local, has offered support. So they're chipping in for some of the food that we're providing for families and students. There's food out in the common area. So they've had access to that the entire time as well. Maybe the last piece that I'll kind of, and I'm probably missing a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of stuff. The last piece that I will mention is at 4 o'clock, we have a Zoom call. So that's Chris Pirro, principal and vice principal, Lori, and again, myself. We are meeting with Kevin Cameron. So the North American Trauma and Vitra, and let me just look at the official name here. My apologies. So there's the North American Center for Threat Assessment and Trauma Response. So Kevin Cameron, we were in communication through Chris Pirro this morning. He has offered to come on site and provide support for the school community. And that's a support to the adults primarily, but it doesn't just stop with the school. So for example, you know, there are comments, you've heard the mayor has made comments. So what Kevin Cameron will do is he'll support the school, and it may not be him specifically, maybe some members from his team, we don't know yet. We're meeting at 4 o'clock, but they'll support the school community and also the community at large. So Leduc itself, we know that there's spillover into the public system. And, you know, like the mayor as an example, right, is making comments and stuff. So we kind of have to unify a response as a community. So that's kind of something that's still in the works on how we'll support students in that school community and the entire community to kind of move on in our healing and our grief. So yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and members of the team, if I've missed something, please don't hesitate to jump in here.
So I do want to acknowledge it as well. I did not know the team, like how many were on the team. Maybe it was all in the email, you know, sort of thing, but I wasn't, I mean, I wasn't sure if that was the whole team or part of the team, but anyhow, thank you, Ed and Kim. And just such an emotional day. I just can't imagine what you all went through that day. So it's emotional just listening to it, you know, the chaos that must have been going on. So when I did send Charlie a message this morning, and I did ask for this type of update, and I just really needed to know what the role of the board was in all of this. And because I didn't know, and I didn't want to, like start asking questions that nobody, they were not the priority. Like Charlie and the team, everybody had that situation at Christ King was the priority. So I was kept updated for sure, but at what point is there a role for the board, right? So I was kind of feeling like, did I not do something? Should I be doing something? That sort of thing. So it was very good that we, Henry and I, we did meet at the school yesterday, and we're there for prayers, and it was good to be there. And I am familiar with a lot of staff there, so I did stay and visit, and it did feel that I was able to be supported that way. But just knowing, we've gone through this situation now, but just knowing that call was made, previous board, that the superintendent is a spokesperson makes total sense. So that is a question that I had, that I wasn't sure, like, at what point, am I the spokesperson or not? Like, I'm away from the situation. I can't give nearly the detail and the confirmation of events that the superintendent can. So that makes total sense. So because I was having so many questions, I sent him an email this morning just seeing what kind of update we could get today. And then it would be good if the board, like maybe it's once a year, it's just a quick review on what this emergency response looks like. Because there's all kinds of different emergencies that happen, right? And then the board, people come and go, everybody just always knows. When this happens, the team starts, the board chair is just updated, and you just the board just steps away and lets the team do the work and not worry about being involved or asking questions or wasting somebody's time, right? So that was just a question that was kind of lingering with me today for sure. So anyhow, that was one suggestion that I had, is that we just always are familiar with what happens in these, how it rolls out, so that, we can just let the team do the work, right? And then I had another question about, I guess, like the debriefing that'll happen, all the details of what happened. Was there a delay anywhere? Is there some when is the communication from the board, and to who? That piece, because it's all kind of out there, and I don't really know. Like, we do have a responsibility for the safekeeping of our students, and then, do we have a communication piece to the parents at some point that we're committed, our schools are safe, the protocols were rolled out properly, we follow what we need to follow to ensure safety of our students. I mean, parents are, they should always feel very confident that when they send their kids to school, they're safe, right? So now, do we have to build up that confidence again? And then we've always considered our Catholic schools at, holy ground. We bless our schools, we bless our staff and our students. So how do we get that confidence, or I guess bring that peace back to our school, that our schools are holy ground, and it is a peaceful place to be, and that Christ is there, right? So anyhow, Trustee Afon, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, the first contact I didn't know that was something that you weren't aware of. Sorry about that on my behalf as one of the longest serving trustee, but that was a conscious decision that we made at that time to have that when we started playing around with the Victra protocols, which was part of, those were those discussions, and that emergency team was based or was created out of. So again, sorry about that.
No,
Like you've alluded to in your
Yeah,
last,
sorry. Go ahead.
like you've alluded to in your last comments there, at this time as this week passes on, once superintendent and everybody have had some way of normalizing things around, that is when I believe we can, around next week, reestablish that confidence and a letter to the division and to parents in Leduc to, again, once so much is settled down, because this is just 2 days after, and there's a lot of moving parts as well. Like we are hearing pieces in the media and all that is happening, but by the weekend, so much will settle and there will be some way forward. And that is when the board now sends out a letter to reassure parents and the division. So just that we should take some step back and keep waiting until the right time to do those letters. Because right now people are grieving and wouldn't even be reading those letters, because a lot of social media questions are happening. And I do know, we don't want to be putting anything right now that people wouldn't pay attention. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really know the timing, but I just don't know what should happen next. I mean, we don't, you know,
and that would be the rule.
Some of my thoughts. And Vitra was signed. I wouldn't have been aware of that because Vitra was signed. Kevin Cameron was actually here, and it was like my first or second year as a trustee, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember that, but it was just an excellent process of getting to that, that partnership. Yeah.
So the work started in the background before, I think 2-3 years before Kevin came, once some of the logistics and the partnerships have been established and clarified and how to enact these services. That was when he came down to sign that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very happy to hear he's coming. He will be such a support to everybody, to the community.
Right.
That is.
And that was again his follow-up up to, he said these were lessons they learned out of Columbine, that they dealt with the school and everything, but neglected the community. Right. So then that's when he incorporated the trauma session of it to entire communities, because when such things happen with the social media age, it impacts the whole community, not just a little corner or a little school. So that's why he's coming back. And I'm glad, Charlie, that he's come, or you guys are talking, so he can give some way forward and then support the school as well as the entire community with some of his guidance. So thank you for following up with that.
I guess there's a few other things that have come to mind. I guess I will say, and it was mentioned earlier, but the response and the expressions of support have been amazing. So neighboring school divisions, civic leaders, they've come, from nearby and far, right across Canada in some situations, right down to the school level. So that's one thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, not having gone through this kind of an event, obviously, I do want to publicly express my thanks to the team. They were amazing, each one of them, for their support in that process. I'm very proud of their work, and I think we handled it as best as we could. We weren't perfect, but to the point of lessons learned, we've said we'll get together next week. Right now, our number one priority, I said it to CTV this morning, our number one priority are the students and staff to get their emotional and mental health needs looked after. Once that happens, next week, our team will stand up again and we'll then go through our process and, we already know there's pieces where there can be improvement. A lot of it is just in how we communicate with other agencies. I'll say it wasn't so much our team, but there was some lessons learned with the communication with outside agencies. We'll also look and do a thorough assessment of the event itself. I said this in the media this morning, so I can say it now publicly. We didn't have a red flag on the charged. So I know in Vitra, that is something. We had not done a Vitra on the student. We didn't have any flags. So I don't mind saying that in this public meeting. But we will do a full assessment of the incident and, were there any signs that we missed? And how did we deal with this incident, on the day and all around that? I guess, and I forgot to mention, I did say that there's a mass intention, but if people wish to attend, the mass is April 13th at 6:30 at St. Michael's. That it will be the mass that will be said on behalf of victim Jennifer Winkler, as well as the family.
Okay.
Trustee Efron?
So Mr. Bouchard, would we probably, like you said, once you know more about arrangements for the victim there, probably if you don't mind updating the board.
Which arrangements?
Like funeral arrangements and something's in the community, I'm sure. So then that the board is aware of that, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And back to another question that you had there, Madam Chair. You may be contacted still by media, and it's not saying I am the spokesperson, but that's more dealing with the incident. I mean, by all means, if you're and I think I mentioned this to you a couple of days ago, but if you're contacted and you wish to speak to the media, we can provide key messages, etc. And there's nothing precluding, the board chair on behalf of trustees releasing messages at any point. We just would need to coordinate that in a process like this. But moving forward, if you wish to send something to families, absolutely, that's definitely within your role. But as far as the incident and communications to media, the superintendent is identified as the spokesperson.
Yeah, that makes total sense. No, I'm good with that. I didn't know the whole team, how it all would roll out, right? So, and the pieces to it. So definitely, this is, just an opportunity that once a year that process is reviewed, and then it's, nobody's left questioning what happens or who goes where, sort of thing. Just a refresher, just a very quick, this is the process. We do have one, and, sort of thing. But that I am concerned about a communication to parents. So I'm just wondering, is that something that we should be doing? And then again, is that part of the response, like at some point in this response, there is a role for the board to communicate to the division, to the staff. So anyhow, I'm just asking, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the answer is there either, Madam Chair, but maybe that's a question that we could ask Kevin and his team when they come. You guys are a stakeholder and obviously, the head of the organization. So, how do you fit into that is a good question, I think, that we can ask. Yeah. I do. I'm sorry, and I apologize. I did miss Stephanie, was part of that team. And, there was one point in time we had all the buses lined up to come, and that was before we realized how long into the day it was going. But it is another piece on the team. So there were 7 of us that were part of that group.
Yeah. Well, like I said, just such a traumatic day and emotional day, and just still a lot of fallout from that. So we definitely recognize that. But again, just the communication to the parents will leave until there's a conversation with Kevin Cameron. Is that what the board is feeling, or do you feel like there should be more of a communication right now, just a reassurance to parents that go ahead, Trustee Efron?
Madam Chair, like I said, after their meeting today, regardless, around next week, we have a very fair or comfortable time. So then that message that is coming from the board will be relevant, and people will have the time to read and digest some of that. But like I said, this week she's a no-go, next week sometime makes sense, and then we can coordinate all of that and disseminate it appropriately. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Sirwa or Trustee Tugwood, did you have or Trustee Svidich, did you have a comment about board communication? Trustee Sirwa?
Well, it wasn't really about the board communication. It was just a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that seeing you, Charlie, in the press release with such raw emotion, and you're able to maintain composure, still stay professional, I felt was comforting to everybody. And just a heartfelt thank you to the whole team. It was very good work.
Thank you.
And I would echo what Liz just said.
Thank you, Trustee Tugwood. Trustee Svidich, did you have any comments?
No, I think it was all handled very professionally, as everyone had mentioned. It was very well done, and the communication was great. So thanks for keeping us in the loop. That was appreciated. Well done.
Okay, well, I don't think we have anything else. Again, yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
I keep remembering pieces. I apologize. There was a lot of flowers that were dropped off as a kind of a makeshift memorial outside the school. You may have saw that on the news. We moved those inside. That wasn't our decision. The school made the decision. I'm not sure who, but we moved all of those flowers into our chapel so that students could pray and pay their respects in the school chapel. So if people say, where'd the flowers go? They were just moved inside the building for the staff and students. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, there were so many. And I think a lot of vases went from central office, and I had a lot. So people were looking for vases to take care of all the flowers that were coming. And just somebody in the neighborhood while I was there, they didn't have kids in the school. They just brought, lots of people just brought beautiful things, beautiful messages. So a lot of community support. So anyhow, again, just a lot of gratitude and appreciation for such a difficult situation, and as we will continue to have to manage what's out there. So thank you again, Charlie, for your calmness, and as Liz said, your professionalism to carry everything out. So 7.15 is kind of our ending of our good news stories. Excuse me. I haven't been to any school councils meetings lately, so I don't have anything to particularly report. Does anybody else? Nothing in particular? Oh, sorry, Henry, you're on mute.
I said, nothing in particular.
Okay.
Except the good news stories of the nominations that have come out, and one out of Wetaskiwin. Thank you.
There is a nomination out of Wetaskiwin?
The excellent Catholic teacher out of Wetaskiwin.
Oh, I see. Yes, yeah. Those are our nominations for ECSTA or ECSA and Edwin Parr. It's nice to have those nominations. Yeah. Okay, so if there's nothing more, then we can adjourn.
Say just before we adjourn, Michelle.
Pardon me? Sorry, Donna, you
adjourn. I just think it's good news that. I just wanted to say it's good news about the vaccine. Am I still cutting out? Oh,
yeah.
Well.
Try again.
You look good news about the vaccine.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
You don't want to go through the action plan?
Yes, we do have a positive path forward is there. 7.17, our annual work plan is there. Board calendar, trustee expense claims, and then board action sheet. Charlie, if you just want to go over.
I have the following items. So Lacombe Media will follow up with the paper to discuss availability for insertion of items during the election, as well as regular submissions. A letter to MESC. A letter will be sent to MESC expressing Star Catholic's interest in entering into discussion about the component in the Education Act regarding an appointed trustee. Catholic Education Week will proceed with a campaign that mirrors ACSTA and GRACE messaging and promotion. COSC will send the agenda out and ask for feedback. The time will remain at 4:30. Risk assessment will review the report with trustees and will determine the most appropriate time when we do the agenda setup. And then the Emergency Operations Center here at Central Office will review that structure annually with the board, and we'll put it on the work plan.
Okay, excellent. So our closing prayer. Is anyone sharing the prayer, or I can just recite it if you like?
If Kim can share it, yeah, recite it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Grant me, O Lord, my God, a mind to know you, a heart to seek you, wisdom to find you, conduct pleasing to you, faithful perseverance in waiting for you, and a hope of finally embracing you. Amen. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. I should also mention that we did hear from our MLAs, our Archbishop and Minister LaGrange. And I would have forwarded a lot of those comments to trustees, but maybe not Charlie because Charlie was too busy. So just acknowledging that those people that were in touch with us as well. So, okay, have a great rest of your day, everybody.